Hey everyone, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. Well, I told you guys that I was going to do an occasional book review, and it took me a little while to make up my mind, but I wanted to do this one first. Wilderness Adventure Camp. Essential Outdoor Survival Skills for Kids by Frank Grindrod. And the reason I am recommending a kid's book is because this is actually one of the very, very best adult books that I have ever seen. And I've been buying survival books for decades. So even though this book says it's for kids, this book is actually excellent for adults, especially adults who are new to survival or new to bushcraft. If you are a kid or buying for a kid, this is the very first book I would buy. If you are new to survival or new to bushcraft, this is the very first book I would buy. And if you are advanced, I would say that this is still an absolute must purchase. What makes this book unique, and I believe it's probably because the author did write it for kids, he teaches the same skills that you would learn in a book that is directed towards adults. You know, there is how to build fire, how to handle a knife properly, sharpen your knife, build debris huts, campcraft, shelter making, you know, all the essentials. But the author went into much greater detail, and rather than reusing the same old line drawings that you see in dozens of survival books, the author just filled the pages with his own artwork and his own photography. And I mean, again, from how to properly use a knife to fire construction, shelter building, knots. There is some great sections on knots in here, again with both his own artwork and photographs, and shelters, campcraft, setting up a camp kitchen, traditional bushcraft skills, but explained in much greater detail, again with much better artwork. In fact, look at this. Here's a section on the debris hut. The debris hut covers 6 pages, and I believe, if I counted, 17 step-by-step full-color photographs on putting together a debris hut, starting from the beginning. So again, this book is just a gold mine of information. I have learned new stuff from it, which I was surprised. The reviews on the book, excuse me, were so good that I decided I wanted to check this book out. And I am so glad I did, because I actually have learned a few new skills from it myself. So even someone who has been into bushcraft can learn from this book. So chapter 1, clothing, survival kits, packing your gear. That's getting ready for adventure. Chapter 2, must-have skills, finding your way. There's compass reading, measuring distance, how to properly use a knife, several sections on building a fire, sections on knot tying. That's chapter 2. Chapter 3, setting up camp, all about how to properly choose your location, setting up a camp kitchen, the art of shelter. There's even a chapter on bathroom basics and how to go to the bathroom in the woods. And some people don't know that. I mean, people who are brand new, they'll walk around like they're lost, holding it as long as they can, and then they'll finally tap somebody on the shoulder and say, hey, how do I go to the bathroom? Or where do I go to the bathroom out here? So it's even got a chapter on that. Campcraft. Use sun compass, feather sticks, wooden spoons, tongs, making cordage, camouflage. Chapter 5, food and drink, the importance of water, harvesting water, purifying water, campfire cooking and baking. Just, again, a tremendous resource of bushcraft and survival skills. And like I said, there's some new stuff in here that I need to do a video on, because it's very cool stuff. So I have picked something out of the book. Oh, now the sun's going to come out. Well, we'll get back in the shade here in just a second. But I picked something out of the book called Making a Twig Bundle. As I said, that when I do book reviews, I would just pick some task out of the book. It might be something simple that we've already done, something different, and we'll follow the instructions on the book or in the book and see. So we're going to make a twig bundle and start a fire with it using the directions in the book. So basically, and it's telling you not to gather from the ground, which is very smart. Gather dry limbs from the branch, but we want super tiny, super fine little twigs, things that are covered with moss and pine needles and lichen and other things that will ignite easily. We gather those up. We're going to gather a big bundle, keep all the thick ends at one end, the fine ends at the other. We're going to pull some moss off and some lichen and some dry pine needles, and we're going to make a tinder bundle of that, and we're going to stuff that in one end. So we'll have this bundle of twigs. We're going to tie it up at one end, stuff a bundle of tinder in the other, and we're going to use that to transport fire. The reason this is a cool skill is if the weather is just tormenting you, especially if it's wind is giving you fits, you can take your twig bundle underneath your tarp or underneath the overhang of a tree or something a little ways away from your fire and light it and get it burning, and then transport that big burning flame to your fire to get your fire burning. So I'm going to put the book back away, but I am going by the instructions in the book. By the book, that section starts on page 62, making a twig bundle. And following the instructions from this book, we're going to make a twig bundle and start a fire. So I've got this sealed up because snow everywhere. Let me pause you guys and we'll go over here and start gathering materials for our twig bundle. Okay, this tree right here is a perfect resource. It looks similar to the one in the book. It's full of small, dry, dead limbs, covered with all kinds of little pieces of dried moss and lichen, which will just catch the flame even more. So basically, we're just going to start breaking off all the small ones, keeping the thick ends at one end and the fine ends at the other. And what a nice resource. I want to show you this. So once we get a big bundle of twigs made, I'm going to tie up one end. That's in the book. Now you can use a piece of willow or long strands of grass. I have some scrap bank line. We're going to tie up one end, and then we're going to take moss and lichen and some dead pine needles and make a bundle and shove the bundle down into this end, and that's what we'll light. So I'm going to set this off to the side. And we'll just keep gathering. And growing our bundle until we get a nice big bundle. And in the book they told you about breaking this over. Like if you need more, we can just break this, double it over, move all of our fine ends up like so. So I'm just following the instructions in the book. And that's the thing. If you get a survival book, and I've bought books like this before and they're all in the trash now, that they say when you're lost, the first thing to do is to sit down, watch my series called Real Survival. The first thing you do is make a place to sit and then sit. Because if you sit on a surface like out here right now, everything is much colder than me. The second I sit down on it, I will start losing body heat, and while I'm sitting there thinking about my situation and what I'm going to do, hypothermia will set in, and then it's too late anyway. So check out my series Real Survival. for techniques that will really save your life in a real survival situation. But anyway, I'll pause you guys. I'm going to just work my way around the tree and make us a nice big twig bundle. And then when I come back, we'll gather up some more moss and lichen. There's just lots of this stuff here. And we'll make a tinder bundle and shove that down in the middle, and we'll tie up this other end. Okay. So, make sure you guys can see that. I have got myself a nice big twig bundle here. And I'm going to take some cordage. I got a little piece of bank line. And keeping everything on camera, which is doing it the hard way, trust me. If you've never made one of these videos, doing everything on camera is always the hard way to do it. Okay. Let's see if I can put my leg up here. There we go. I'm going to tie off one end. Wrap that around there twice. Willow works good for this too. I'll have to come back and do a video showing you guys. I've tied stuff with willows. I've made tripods and held the whole tripod together with just willows, and then made it into a big cooking rack and cooked jerky. Just using willows to hold the tripod together. So I just happen to have a little piece of scrap bank line that I always have in my pocket. Several scraps of bank line. Okay. So here is our twig bundle. We followed the directions in the book. The final direction was we're supposed to make a tinder bundle out of whatever we can find: moss, lichen, dry pieces of bark. I've actually gathered a bunch and I got it setting off to the side, but here's some pine needles hanging down, some more moss. Let me grab that bundle. Okay. So I've got a bunch of moss, dried pine needles, lichen all mixed together. And I'm going to shove that down in the end of our twig bundle. That's where I'm going to light this. And let me take a walk around the tree and just add a little bit more to this. So I'm just adding more moss, more lichen. This stuff is pretty dry. Down into the end of this. So I've got a big tinder bundle shoved right in the end. Now we can use, if we've got enough small stuff in here, we can use a ferro rod, this fine moss and lichen, if we start tearing it up and getting our fine ends. Or we can use a windproof, waterproof match. I have had a small lighter next to my leg all morning, staying warm. Because that's the thing, these lighters will not light if they get below freezing. So it's been next to my leg all morning. And we're just going to light this. And like I said, the cool thing is, imagine it's storming out here. I've got my fire pit out here away from, in front of my shelter. I can take this inside the shelter, out of the wind, light it. And once it starts burning, walk back out and get my fire going. So this is a cool thing to learn for how to transport your fire from one location to another. So turning this upside down, I'm grabbing the very end of it here. Let's see if we can. There we go, just like that. So I'm going to let that burn up into everything, get going really good. So right now it's smoking a lot because it's catching all of that moss and all of that lichen. And I got a location down here. I'm going to try to get you guys down there as fast as I can, but I'm going to have to move quickly. I had a little teepee set up down here, and so I'm using my twig bundle to move my fire up into the teepee. And now we have successfully transported our fire from our shelter making area up into this teepee that was waiting and ready to go. And so we used a twig bundle, we followed the directions in the book, and we now have our fire, and all I need to do is gather a little bit bigger material and trying to adjust you guys here. Start feeding the fire. Very nice. Oh yeah, that's going to be a beautiful fire. I'm going to spend some time up here enjoying that fire. Nice. And pause, you guys. All right, so our fire is doing great. Again, I got the book sealed up in a Ziploc bag now. But Wilderness Adventure Camp. Author is Frank Grindrod. It's on Amazon for about 14 bucks. And it is, again, my #1 recommendation for kids, for anybody who's new to survival or bushcraft, and a priority for your library, even if you are advanced bushcraft, because you'll find the skills that you already know probably explained and photographed better than you've ever seen in any other survival book. And like I said, I've learned something new from it, so it was well worth it. Dan at Ochako Bushcraft, this is the first book review. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you buy the book, comment me back later. Let me know what you think of the book. And we'll get out here and do another one of these in the not too distant future. I'm going to spend some time right here building this fire up, getting warm, and having something to eat. Enjoy yourselves out there, guys.